one young stud to another in Keon Ellis and Keegan Murray. We talked about how the Kings are doing a lot of, not wheeling and dealing, but a lot of assessing right now. Well, some names that they are not assessing outside of their contract assessments, Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis, and they're both generating strong interest around the league, and why wouldn't they be? But according to Jason Anderson of the Sacramento Bee, we're due for a Jason Anderson appearance pretty soon here on the Alan Styles Show, but the Kings have no interest in trading Keegan Murray or Keon Ellis, and that is from, again, Jason Anderson of the Sacramento Bee. And, you know, I do think some of this is as well that it's a bit hard to land on their value, which is a common theme here with the Sacramento Kings. I would say less about Keon Ellis and more about Keegan Murray. We've discussed that Keegan Murray is probably a year away from really garnering some of that value once he is on that contract and we know what exactly he's worth. And again, to revisit some of Keegan's peers, if you will, and the contracts that they have, you have Jaden McDaniels, who he's kind of the found money king in this category because he was the 28th pick. He just signed for 5 years, or back in 2020, he signed for 5 years.
Last year, so 2020 draft class.
That's right, 2020 draft class. 5 years, $131 million. Patrick Williams, kind of the opposite of lost money. I'm no disrespect. That was
no, mean. It was one of the worst contracts in the NBA last year.
That was mean, but I'm sorry, Patrick Williams. 5 years, $90 million. Obi Toppin. Now that's some found money right there in the second draft, if you will. Obi Toppin, the number 8 pick in the 2020 draft, in the 2020 draft. 4 years, $58 million, and my guy, find him away to Sacramento, Denny Abdia, the number 9 pick, 4 years, $55 million. Now let's go to the 2021 draft. You have a couple different guys with that 5-year, $224 million contract. This is the big money stuff now. Now we're not messing around. Evan Mobley, and obviously the money has changed as well. Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, Franz Wagner, all at that 5-year, $224 million rookie scale max contract. I don't see Keegan getting that.
He's not.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson right underneath that. We're getting warmer here at 5 years, $150 million. And then you have Trey Murphy and Jalen Johnson, a number 20 pick. Go get him. Miami Heat. Number 20 pick. Let's talk.
Do you want me to do, you know how we did that for the number 4 picks? Let's see the history of number 20 picks.
Oh, man. Now, we'll get to it. Trey Murphy, the third, the number 17 pick in the 2021 draft, 4 years, $112 million. Corey Kispert, the number 15 pick, 4 years, $54 million. Now, I think we've gone a little bit too far. Shout out Corey Kispert and everything he's done. I think where I want to take this is that the right decision for the Kings? Right. And we were talking to Sam Quinn. Go check that out. That'll be up on YouTube if it isn't already. Sam Quinn of CBS Sports. Is that the right decision for the Sacramento Kings? Should anybody be off the table? Where we're at right now, should anybody be off the table? Is Keegan Murray good enough to have this type of conversation where, hey, we're not interested in moving Keegan Murray? They didn't move him last season, right, for Lauri Markkanen. They also didn't move him in the, the Cam Johnson stuff came up, but obviously they wanted to add on to the wings, but they didn't want to move him in the Lauri Markkanen conversation. Now we're here, and the Kings are trying to pick a direction. Clearly, Keegan wouldn't be my first person to move. I'm not going to say who my first person move would be, but it would have been Keegan. It wouldn't be Keegan Murray. But the question now is, I agree with the Keon Ellis thing, and what's funny is they're so close in age, but Keon, because of the found money situation and because of the cost, I think I would be more willing to have a Keegan conversation because I think I would get more back. I'd have to see what would be thrown around, but the conversation should be whether or not they shouldn't be taking calls on Keegan. I'm not saying to move him, but there is nobody on that contract that you shouldn't be taking calls about.
It makes me think, because we're so close to the extension window opening, that they might have an extension lined up pretty quickly next week, right? Because if you don't sign him to the extension and he has 1 year left before restricted free agency, and you don't plan to offer him the extension, or you can't come to an agreement like Kuminga and the Warriors, then it doesn't benefit you to not shop him, because then you're having doubts about what his value actually is, and maybe somebody would be willing to acquire him at the $25 million price point per year that maybe you aren't, right? So if Jason is saying that they're not taking calls on Keegan at all, then I suspect they're going to extend him, because otherwise why would you? So you're not making him available, but you're also not extending him with 1 year left on his contract. What are we really doing there if not?
And again, keep trying to tell people this might be a tough season as far as a lot of moves being made, because next season, let's again go over, there's so much more that is locked up and are known situations. Next season is where Scott Perry can get, it's Tuesday, a Tapatio Tuesday. This is where Scott Perry can get real Scoville level, real spicy, because let's talk about it. Zach LaVine would have 1 more year. Now he's an expiring contract, okay? Sabonis would still have 2, but that's more palatable.
Well, also with a superstar, which I'm not saying Sabonis is, but with those star players, with 2 years left on the deal, we kind of got to come together and figure out what we're doing.
So you have Zach LaVine breaking news, he has opted into that nearly $50 million player option. Sabonis would have 2 years left, and that would be another year of whatever is about to happen. It's going to be a rough one, in my opinion, which isn't bad because you own that 2026 draft pick, and it's going to be right now, it's going to be a good draft. We'll see when it actually comes around. So you have those two. DeMar DeRozan, not guaranteed money. We'll see what happens there. Let's just put DeMar DeRozan to the side here. Then you would have Keon Ellis, we believe, on contract, which makes it easier to have conversations. You'd also have Keegan Murray on contract. Now it's easier to have those conversations. That's the 4 horsemen there, right? Of the value has changed a lot, and Scott Perry can now start to craft this thing to what we will see what he wants. We don't know yet because Sabonis still got 3 years. Zach LaVine, he's still got 2. DeMar DeRozan, he's still got this year. And how do we want to go about this? You still got to figure out Keon Ellis, which they'll figure out sometime this week. You still got to figure out Keegan Murray and that extension. I know it's not what a lot of you want to hear, but next season they can say, Scott Perry can say, number one, okay, cool, we were a 10 seed again.
Or worse.
And the Blazers just leapfrogged us. The Spurs just leapfrogged us. And the rest of the West is already ahead of us.
And by the way, Cooper Flagg is awesome. So now the Mavericks are still good.
So we have all that going on. We control our 2026. And now these contracts are all way more palatable. And it is just more clear cut. Going into this offseason, there's just so much that hasn't been figured out yet. I understand, and I would say this, it's less about Keegan or Keon being quote unquote untouchable, and more so about there is a lot more clarity that will come once we do these deals and we get through this season versus trying to force something now where Keegan's value could go up after next season. DeMar DeRozan, maybe Keegan takes a step offensively. Keon Ellis, maybe he takes another step. And he's looking more like a hybrid Dortcher, Caruso, Chamber thing, right? Maybe Keon takes another step offensively. And you got him locked up under contract. You can decide to keep that. You can decide to see what people are talking about. If you know at that point, okay, now Keon's 26 and we're heading in a different direction. All right. Contenders out there, who's interested in a Keon? Who's interested in a Keegan? I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying the possibilities open up after this season. I know it's not what people want to hear. And my reporting on what has been floated as far as DeMar DeRozan is what it is. But that's fringe stuff. I'm talking big picture stuff. Mm-hmm. That's fringe stuff. the PJ Washington. Yeah, we can do the PJ Washingtons and the Tyus Joneses. We can do that, but it's still leading up to, let's be honest, that's to put butts in the seats. That's to try to sell, we're going to be competitive. But we know if you're Scott Perry, yeah, I got to do this because I can't just run out the same thing because we have marketing obligations and we're trying to excite the fan base. But my real deal is to get through this season, get in my recruits, and I'm air quoting if you're driving because I keep saying this is like a college coach, and my recruits also just means my decisions. There's too much for Scott. There are too many whack-a-moles for Scott Perry to handle in one season. So the biggest one, DeMar DeRozan, let's see if he even wants to go. He might not want. I keep trying to tell people, it might be Tyus Jones and let's rock and roll.
Well, and the other part of it for next year, which is what I've been saying since like the whole Scott Perry thing began, is like, let's say it's the trade deadline and they're the 12 seed. Mm-hmm. Or call it the offseason.
Right. You don't even have to wait till the offseason per se.
Your hand might get forced at that point, right? Because I am of the belief Domantas Sabonis, while he may not be Jokic, is a player good enough that you don't get rid of voluntarily.
Right.
If Sabonis, who's looking for clarity, comes back next year, with a full training camp, it doesn't go the way they're hoping. They end up in the 12 seed or the 11 seed. Sabonis might come back with 2 years left on his deal and be like, hey, guys, appreciate it. I'm happy to play out the contract, but I'm not signing another one.
Yeah.
At that point, your hand might get forced of like, okay, with 2 years on the deal, we kind of have to trade you to jumpstart a rebuild, right? So there's all sorts of situations that could come up at the trade deadline or next summer, to your point, where their hand might get forced to go down now. Just there's a certain percentage of Kings fans and pundits who say, well, let's just fast track that and get it going now. If we know that's where the end game is, why don't we just fast track it now? And I would say it's not that easy.
No, and teams might not be that desperate yet, right? That's where I'm at with the DeMar DeRozan thing. And people are pretty sad at what Sam Quinn had to say as far as just kind of matching salaries. That's why I don't think you have to move him now unless he says, I want to be moved now. If he's cool because he's home, he is home, by the way.
He is home.
If he's cool because he's home, they got a point guard now and Tyus Jones or Dennis Schroeder. He's kicking it with his boy, Zach LaVine. They're getting to see where this thing goes. Then let's see what happens. Let's see if somebody gets desperate. Memphis is leaking oil. All right, let's go get DeMar DeRozan. Let's go get Zach LaVine. You don't have to do anything right now. If I'm Scott Perry, I'm cold chilling. I'm chilling right now. I'm assessing the situation. You know, you come in. What was that show? Secret Boss, right? When the boss gets all dressed up. Or Undercover Boss. Undercover Boss.
That show is actually pretty good.
When the boss gets all dressed. Yes, sometimes I get teary-eyed from those shows. Boss gets all dressed up, you know, finds out that the company is just all screwed up. The chicken ain't being cooked right. They're not following things. But at first they just assess. They don't come in guns blazing. They got the fake mustache on and the toupee. That's what Scott Perry, he's just assessing. And he keeps preaching patience. And as long as he has autonomy to stay patient, I think that's what the best move just may be. No moves over bad moves. That's where I'm at right now. Where we're at when we return, don't go anywhere. Let's talk Zach LaVine. Sam Quinn had to say, and I'm paraphrasing here, you look at DeMar DeRozan's value compared to Zach LaVine,